All right, so this is, hold on a second. Whew. Okay, now I can breathe. So, much like how the original Mini addressed the oil crisis of the 50s, this car was an answer to the oil crisis of the 70s, mainly the Malaise generation, the date, the time of large cars with low horsepower, but higher fuel economy. This is a 1976 Mercury Cougar XR7. So yes, you might be wondering to yourself, why is the Miniac out here with a Mercury? Well, I thought it was interesting to show a car that's the complete opposite of a Mini Cooper. This thing is big, it is loud, it is slow, it's actually really interesting. The owner of this car said it has a single stage white paint job on it right now, has 17-inch American racing wheels, but it is just such an interesting vehicle that I had no choice. I had to show you this car just because it's such a cool car. I have photographed this thing a while back and there's just something about it. I mean, look inside here with these gigantic doors, switches that look like something out of the 70s, obviously. Seats that have zero support whatsoever. Very, very thin steering wheel. Tons of gauges that probably don't all give you much information. And a big bench seat in the back. This is just a massive, massive vehicle. And it sounds really cool if I can get the owner over here to demonstrate this for me. Right, so as you could guess, it was a little slow in starting. But let's take a look at the engine in this car. Now, I've been told it's a 351 Windsor modified. And modified means what exactly? Means I can't open the hood, so hold on. There it is. Trying to open a hood with one hand while holding a camera is not recommended. I'm gonna have the owner open it for me because I can't open it with one hand. I'm gonna keep him out of frame though, just for safety reasons. Ah, okay, that's why I couldn't open it. The hood weighs a ton. So, this is that engine. It's a 351 modified Windsor putting out, what, is it like 140 horsepower? So let's, for perspective, there's my Mini over there. My Mini has 265 to 270 horsepower right now. This is 140. So, granted, he probably could modify this engine at some point and get a lot more horsepower out of it. But it's kind of interesting that it looks almost all original here. I don't know if there's anything in here that hasn't been completely replaced aside from maybe the manifold up there and the carburetor and the air cleaner and all that good stuff. But it is just kind of crazy to see an old piece of Detroit steel here driving around still. And that is a big engine bay for this engine. Now, the one thing I love about old cars like this, though, is the old hood ornaments that you do not see anymore on a lot of cars. And this is a really cool Cougar ornament because obviously it's a Mercury Cougar. So another cool thing here is if you look at the valve cover, look at the original sticker right here. This is incredible. So one of the original valve cover stickers from the Ford Motor Company. And I'm touching it barehanded and it's probably hotter than heck. The owner is not sure what the purpose of this tin can is. My guess is for baked beans, but I think it's just a valve. But I think it's just a valve. What were they asking about?
If you wanted food or water.
No, why?
I have no idea why.
So some people driving by just asked if me and the owner of this car wanted food or water. Apparently, this is such an old car that they thought we were homeless. So, where was I? Ah, yes. The baked bean can here that might be something related to vacuum. There's a vacuum line coming out of it, so we're not sure exactly what it is, but it's kind of funny. Okay, now I think it's time for a ride in this beast of a car. So I'm gonna hop in and I'm gonna let the owner drive it because he's owned this car for several years now and it's kind of his baby. But we're going to go give it, oh my gosh, give it a roll. So hold on a second, let me put my seatbelt on. Okay, so now that I'm strapped into the car, and I do mean strapped, these are the locking seatbelts of the 70s and 80s. Let's go for it. So, as you can see in the interior here, we got a Cougar right there, nice leather. I think it's leather, might be vinyl. Lots of plastic, lots of fake chrome, lots of gauges. There's a cassette, is that a cassette player?
8-track.
8-track player. Oh, we're really 70s here. And it works. So there's an 8-track player in this car and it works. So let's go for it. So already it wallows like a typical 70s big car with 140 horsepower in it. So this is really kind of Starsky and Hutch feeling when you're in it. It feels like it's right out of that TV show, except this is probably the car that you would see the bad guy in, chasing around or being chased by Starsky and Hutch. So it's kind of like the villain's car, as it were. And being that it's a big white Mercury, it probably fits the bill on that regard. So it seemed only appropriate that we drive it around the warehouse district of Kansas City, as it seems very fitting for this particular car to be down in this general area. And I'm sure the owner would agree with me on that completely, that this is just the perfect area to be driving around in a very old muscle car, as we would call it. I guess we could call it a muscle car. Really, it's more of a giant car that was trying to be a luxury car at the time, that just ended up being this behemoth with a very low horsepower motor in it. But we're trying to find a road that we could possibly open it up just a little bit. But we're about to go over some railroad tracks. That should be interesting. See how great the suspension is. That is the softest ride I've ever had over a railroad track. I don't think I even felt the railroad tracks. That is the softest ride I've ever had over a railroad track. I just also noticed this other thing though. Look how thick the glass is here. It's the thick windows on this car. So it is just insane. So he's trying to open it up a little bit, but we're not exactly in the best area to do that. And for this very reason, I don't have my microphone plugged in right now, just because it's a little bit easier to handle this while I don't have it on. Okay, this is fun. Land yacht. We're riding around Kansas City in a boat. So you would not be able to make a clean getaway in this car because you'd have to do multiple turns to get through intersections. So now we're driving under a highway in this car, and this is just... Those were potholes back there. Did you notice? I don't think I felt it in this car. But this is just an incredible car for what it was and for what it is. It is still, most of these cars are probably crushed, have been recycled, and are now new cars. So some of these are probably your 2005 Ford Focus or your 2010 Dodge Ram. The cars were recycled because people didn't really treat these cars as collectible. They were considered disposable because they were some people thought they were incredibly ugly. Some people thought they just weren't that good. So all this Detroit steel got recycled over time. So it's very rare to find one of these cars still on the road. And in fact, this is only one of two Mercury Cougars I've actually seen from this model year around. One of them's a green one in my hometown that's sitting there abandoned, and then there's this white one that is still out driving on the road. So it's amazing to see one of these still running. So while I unstrap myself from this car and figure out where the door is, there it is. This is just an incredible beast of a vehicle. It's heavy, it's bulky, it's solid. It's not something you would typically find with a modern car from today. So some of you are probably still asking yourself, why the heck is the Miniac showing a Mercury Cougar on the channel, and why a 1976 Mercury Cougar? Well, it's a car that was part of its time. It was part of the generation that had the fuel crisis, and the Mini was part of the generation that had a fuel crisis as well. Both of these cars came along to answer a problem, to solve a problem, and that's why they're still here. The Mercury Cougar, the name Cougar is gone from the Mercury lineup. For that matter, Mercury is gone completely. But this car was a product of its time, much like the Mini was a product of its time. So it seemed only fitting that I would have this car on the channel, and it seemed only fitting to have something of this caliber. This is a very, very interesting vehicle. When you really take the time to get to look at this car, it just defies logic in the fact that it's gigantic, it's heavy, and it was supposed to be a high fuel economy vehicle, and instead it was a very low horsepower, big car. But in a way, it is a great vehicle, and it's a survivor of its time. So this car, you don't see many 1976 cars around these days. You don't see many cars from the 70s still around. So the fact that this car is even in existence says a lot about the owner, says a lot about the owner's family, the fact that they wanted to keep this car around because it was special to them. And that's kind of the thing, is if the car is special to you, you're going to keep it around for a long time. If a brand is special to you, you're going to be buying from that brand for a very long time. Mini is a special brand to me, so I will continue to buy a Mini. But not everyone will be that way with Mini, but people will be that way with other brands. So it's really, I've run out of things to say about it. I think it's great. I think this is a fantastic vehicle. I wouldn't mind driving it myself, but I don't want to take that away from the owner. So instead, I'm going to let you all go with a reminder that life is too short to drive a boring car. So, well, I can't tell you to drive a Mini right now because I got this thing behind me, and I think I would offend it if I told you that. But either way, life is too short to drive a boring car. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. I upload videos every Friday at 2 p.m. And I'm just going to let you go from there. Thanks for watching. Go check out my other playlists. I'm going to put up a playlist for, I'll figure that out later. So see you all in the next video.